Zelle Scams, Zelle Fraud, a new twist on Zelle Fraud. These headlines seem to be everywhere today. We're here with a special update on the newest twist on a current Zelle scam. Lynn, let's dive right in. How do they perpetrate this fraud now?
Well, this new one just has an added wrinkle. Maybe some of you already saw this news about this case, but it starts the same way that we're used to with all of these Zelle scams we've been reading about. Someone received a communication that appeared to be from their bank, and we all know that the fraudsters can spoof, phone numbers and make it look legitimate when it's not. And, sure enough, it was communication saying there's some suspicious activity on your account. And this person then was doing the right thing. He said, or I don't know if he got engaged with them, but he ended up calling his bank. And then when he heard from his bank that the wait time was going to be extensive, 20 minutes or so, he chose the option that said you can hang up and you'll get a call back from the bank as soon as it's your turn. You won't lose your place in line. Well, the fraudsters, take advantage of that. And this person got a call and he thought it was his bank and it looked like it was his bank and he was expecting a call from his bank. And so then we know what happened. It wasn't his bank. It was the fraudster making that extra call and the scam happened.
So, Lynn, the caller ID said it was the bank?
Yes, it looks like it's the bank to the person getting that call.
So people have to be aware that what it says on the caller ID is no guarantee that that's exactly who is on the phone.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, because I've done that, press 1 and we'll call you back. I've done it, I have to admit. Okay, Lynn, it seems that once again I forgot to introduce you. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go on to discuss how this fraud is different than other Zelle scams.
Well, sure, Mary. So Recharged Education is a company that I launched back in 2014. And I started out, and I still am, deep into the commercial card space, offering training, consulting, educational resources. But over the years, I've expanded my scope. I look at things like Zelle scams, instant payments, real payments, and just payment strategies overall.
So let's talk a little bit about how this fraud is different than other Zelle scams. And also, Lynn, what should you do about these calls from your bank? Because I know you had a problem once, it's got to be maybe a year or two ago, that we did a video on that involved something like this with the bank calling you.
Yeah, I think, where this latest example is different, it's because of that extra piece of communication. And it's the fact that the person really was doing, what appeared to be the right thing. So they get lulled into thinking, that they have this false sense of security.
Mm-hmm.
So a mistake comes in when this person did not stay on the line and wait for the bank to answer. He took advantage of the hang up, we'll call you right back when it's your turn. And that's when the fraudster was able to get in a second time and catch the man off guard. So in this case, it's just another new thing to be aware of.
It also, to me, demonstrates how smart some of the crooks are. And they find all these little nuances and these little, which I guess is really a weakness, and then they exploit them.
Right. So, if you get that call back and it looks like it's your bank, it may or may not be.
Yeah. So, Lynn, what does the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau have to say about all this?
Well, even to back up before I answer that question, if anyone has been following these types of stories, they'll know that the banks have been getting a lot of bad press because there are cases where the people are not getting reimbursed when they fall victim to scams. And the banks, for the most part, are saying, well, you're the one that initiated the transaction.
Right.
So we do not have to reimburse you. Well, then, this was when let's say the acronym CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection. Yes, right. It does. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau comes into play. And if you even look on that website, there's a lot of information out there about what is qualified under what's known in the United States as Regulation E about the protections for consumers. And, they're saying that this is an example of where a fraudster or a third party has, basically conned somebody or, victimized somebody at getting their account information in order to make an unauthorized transaction. And, you and I know that you can split hairs over the
Right.
wording. The banks can say, well, they didn't get the login information. It still was the person, the account
Right.
holder making the transaction, even though they were in fact scammed. So we could start to, again, split hairs, argue the details. And, I think it's just going to be something that will continue to change and evolve, maybe. I know some banks are reimbursing people who are scammed, but it's a case by case situation.
Right. And you know what I fear is it reminds me back to all the check fraud we had in the late 90s. And eventually the banks said, we can't do it anymore. We're not doing it anymore because it wasn't just an isolated case here or there. Okay. Before Lynn gets around to telling us how to protect ourselves, which is something I certainly would like to know, if you like this episode, please give us a thumbs up. And if you loved it, please subscribe. We produce new content for this channel 3 times a week. Tuesdays and Thursdays are for payment and accounts payable information just like this. And Saturdays are reserved for Wordle. So Lynn, the $1 million question, how can viewers and listeners protect them against this type of fraud?
Well, you can probably guess already. Don't hang up if you are on hold with your bank.
Right.
But, actually, I would go beyond that. My recommendation would be don't call at all. Just don't engage in any communications that appear to be coming from your bank. And instead, just completely separately, independently log into your bank accounts, however you do that securely, and just see if you can identify any odd activity or you see any messages there, from your bank. So that would be my recommendation. Just go online, check things out, but don't engage in any sort of way with those communications coming into you. And if you do decide to call because maybe it's not practical wherever you are to log in to your bank, then just don't hang up, stay
Right.
on the hold line.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm sure you're the same as me. I get so many phony emails from different banks that occasionally when I get one that is from my bank, usually I'm not even banking with the entity, I never respond to it. I always log into the account, even though it's a pain and you have to backdoor your way to whatever they're talking about. I think in the long run, you're safer. That's
Well,
just
right. And that's something I try to do. I mean, actually, I find it's usually quicker. I mean, if I'm in a secure environment, if I'm, in my office, just logging in to look at my accounts takes less time than looking up the appropriate phone number, making that call, and
right.
possibly sitting online.
Right.
So again, it's putting up that guard, if you will.
Right.
We've talked numerous times about don't panic, and that's still the case. But when I saw this news story, I thought,
Well,
this
here
person
we
really
go.
was
Yeah.
trying to do the right thing, following advice that you and I have talked about.
Mhm.
But now we have to amend that advice and say, don't hang up when you're on
Right.
hold.
Right.
Don't let the bank call you back.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So Lynn did a much longer talk with us on Zelle fraud, the basics, and how to protect yourself. You can watch it right now using a link that will appear momentarily on YouTube and is in the show notes below. As always, we appreciate your thumbs up, your subscribes, your shares, and your comments. And good luck.